Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Thank you for joining, everybody. This is Joe Munro with Calix. We have everybody just a few more minutes and we'll get started. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Plan, launch, adjust, the agility broadband businesses need to take to make new products launch successfully. Before our presentation begins, I'd like to share a few quick tips so you can get the most out of your webinar experience. Located in the top toolbar on the right side, you'll see your settings and control panel. This is where you'll find the questions section. The questions section will have a box with a question mark within the toolbar. This is where you should go to submit the questions or comments during the presentation. We'll address those during the Q&A session at the end. If we don't get to yours, we'll send you a written response. Finally, there will be live poll questions for you to take part in throughout the webinar, and we'd like to thank you in advance for participation in those. This webinar is being recorded. We will post a link in the coming days on the Calix Webinar Hub. Be on the lookout for an email where you will also find the link for your convenience. Allow me to introduce our presenters today. Darren Farnan, General Manager at United Fiber, Nikki Dalton, Chief Sales Officer at United Fiber, and Andy Wapplinger, Senior Solutions Marketing Manager at Calix. Andy, the mic is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining me today. As he said, my name is Andy Wapplinger. I am the Senior Solutions Marketing Manager for SmartBiz here at Calix, and I'm very excited to be talking with Darren and Nikki today. Darren, as he said, is United Fiber's General Manager, and Nikki is United Fiber's Chief Sales Officer. We're going to be learning about the journey that they've taken at United Fiber in terms of launching SmartBiz. But before we jump into our chat, we do have a quick poll to help us better understand where everybody here is at in their own journey in terms of providing internet services for small businesses. So if you wouldn't mind answering this poll here that's going to pop up, we're just wondering which of the following best describes your company's current small business service offering. It could be as something as basic internet and voice. It could be managed Wi-Fi solution, but a residential-based features and capabilities. It could be managed Wi-Fi that is small business oriented, or possibly an even more robust managed Wi-Fi solution, such as a managed firewall or other more robust small or business capabilities. All right, great polls. Really appreciate everybody's participation here. So today it looks like we're going to be a nice mix, actually, kind of spread across all four. A good number of people are offering business managed Wi-Fi, which is exciting, but plenty of other opportunities here for learning if you're not yet offering something like SmartBiz. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce Darren and Nikki. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Darren, I would love it if you wouldn't mind kicking us off here, giving us a little bit of a background on United Fiber as well as yourself.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for having us, Andy. United Fiber has been around since we served our first customers in 2013. Again, a very small co-op in Northwest Missouri, where our fiber territory basically goes from the north edge of Kansas City up to the Iowa border. Again, United Electric is about 10,000 meters and a very rural co-op, about 2.5 meters per mile, low density. On the fiber side, United Fiber has just hit 40,000 subscribers. We started in 2013, as I said, but then in about 2014 began building some small communities adjacent to our footprint, and that has really just grown into now over 50 communities. We just kicked off our first community in Iowa, out of state, just this week, as a matter of fact. And so we've had it's been quite a road. We've served, again, out of those 40,000, nearly 3,000 of those are commercial businesses, a mix of small business mostly, but also some enterprise and larger business services in there. But that's United Fiber. Again, we've grown to about 80 employees and really been a great success for the co-op and for the region.
That's awesome. That's really exciting, especially as you're expanding into whole new territories for you guys. And Nikki, how about yourself? Muted.
Yes, yeah.
You're good. No worries.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Sorry. I've been with the co-op about 6 years. I manage our sales team, and we've been having great success with SmartBiz, and we're excited to be able to tell our story today.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Well, speaking of, let's go ahead and go back to the beginning of United Fiber's journey. Launching SmartBiz, often offering new services, typically begins by kind of seeing what your competition is like, kind of comparing it against what you're currently offering, if you're even offering something competitive in that market. And I think it's important for companies to be staying innovative and competitive in these markets. So to help us set the stage, could you kind of give us an understanding of what business services United Fiber was offering before introducing SmartBiz?
Yeah, so we've obviously offered home residential wireless from the beginning. That was always, kind of that, even back when we were going to the original meetings with Carl, talking about, owning the customer and things like that. We really bought into that and have had home managed wireless from the beginning, but we really didn't do that on the commercial side very well. We early on, I think our tech group was a little bit concerned about, all the different things of trying to manage larger businesses, very different footprints on the commercial side with wireless solutions and things like that. So only for a few small businesses that really had asked and wanted basically what was our residential wireless service. That was really about all we were offering at the time. And so SmartBiz presented an opportunity that we thought, really we should be doing the same thing. We should be owning that experience on the commercial side, just like we are on the residential side. And that's really what got us going on that.
Yeah. And were there any particular kind of gaps or needs that you were seeing in the business market that the residential offering just really wasn't delivering on, and that's what kind of instigated maybe this search for a new solution for small businesses?
That's right. Yeah, it was very basic. So that's why we kind of progressed into that. But I'll let Nikki take that one because she's probably has a little bit better information on that from the sales front.
Well, yeah, we just had our sales people coming to us all the time saying, we are selling to a lot of very small businesses who don't have their own IT, and we needed a solution that would help them. So we tried early on just to sell them kind of like the residential Wi-Fi, but they have other needs, especially with like all of the cyber threats and cybersecurity being such a hot button and a hot word right now. They just had that need, plus them having I'm like completely having a blank right now, but also the rollover. So say like our fiber does get cut, they were like dead in the water. So now we're able to roll it over to the app and their business can continue. And that is huge for them because it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen because people dig all the time when, they should have called first and they cut through fiber and we have those accidents, and now we can help that business keep moving along, and that's worth its weight.
So yeah, having that network resiliency, that kind of failover backup option. I mean, it's obviously, fiber is super reliable, and I think that every provider is really kind of keen on keeping as many nines as they can. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can control. So it's
Right.
definitely something that we've heard a lot too. Is cybersecurity, network resiliency, making sure the business is protected and connected all the time is hugely important. I was wondering if, as you guys were exploring other options for a small business solution, were there, how do you kind of weigh the pros and cons of SmartBiz compared to maybe other alternatives that were out there?
Well, for obviously being we're 100% Calix shop, so having that visibility, having the built-in app and applications, that were there, just making it easier for our teams. As I said, we were always a little bit leery. If we did do something on the commercial side, we want to be able to do it well. And for the first time, we really felt like this was an integrated solution that we could incorporate. It would be a good look, from United standpoint, and fulfill really some strong needs that Nikki was pointing to there earlier, as far as needs they have within their business. And we just never felt like the residential solution that we were kind of, trying to make work in a few cases was really up to the level that they needed, especially being able to split those networks for a lot of our smaller businesses, especially retail. That's really been a big piece. So just again, with all the advantages that we're all aware of with SmartBiz, those were the pros. I would say the cons, really, I mean, there really weren't a lot. Me looking at the financial side, I mean, the fact that there is a little bit of a wholesale cost for it versus not having any before, but frankly, with what we've done with the price point and the value that we're bringing, that's more than offset what we're paying for the service. So that, I got past that pretty quickly. So
Yeah,
And
well,
if
I
I
also like,
can,
uh,
oh, sorry, if I can step in there, I just wanted to add, it also allows those small businesses to operate like the big guys, with the big businesses that have the IT, because now they can have a guest network. Now they can email all the customers they had over the weekend and say, thanks for, coming in, here's $2 off the next drink or something like that. So it just allows them a lot of benefits that big businesses already are doing, but these small guys can now play in the same lot, I guess.
totally, yeah. And I think I was going to say something just quick to one of the first things Darren had said there is I think that it really illustrates the power of the platform of being able to have this kind of wholly cohesive platform you guys are operating on, and then that just makes it that much easier to bring in this new solution, spin it up, and get it distributed, and then that way it makes it easier to kind of absorb those costs, build in those margins that you guys are looking for to make the solution make sense. I was also kind of wondering if there's any particular customer feedback you guys are really hearing from the field. Phones kind of ring off the hook or anything like that. Businesses being like, we need something more than what we're getting here. Like as you were talking about, these other bigger businesses are having no problem with the IT needs and satisfying those. But were you guys hearing a lot also just from the small business community in your area?
Well, I just think the small businesses, they just want to do what they do best, which is run their business, right? So they want not only internet, but they want us to come in with a solution that just allows them to do what they do best, and that is run their business. And they don't want to have to worry about it. They don't want to know everything about the internet and about IT. And now we can take them in a product. Not only do we have internet, we can take care of their Wi-Fi needs, and then we have all of this set of benefits that goes with this product that helps them operate like the bigger companies. So it's been huge, and it's sticky. It makes our product very sticky because they're not going to, move away from that because we're handling a lot of different things for them with this product.
And to build on that just a little bit, Andy, like I said, with those tool sets, I mean, obviously having the platform, but then having the additional tools with some of the different, the different wireless pieces of equipment that we have now that we can go in, and that's really helped kind of both from our tech side and our network side feel more comfortable to have a cohesive solution that we can go into a business that's 200 square feet to a business that's 2,000 square feet and still have the right tools now and be able to create a cohesive coverage throughout the business. So that's been another big thing I think that we probably haven't talked about a lot, but that's really put us at ease in knowing we can fit multiple customers no matter what they look like.
Yeah, the scalability and adaptability I think is
Right.
a huge aspect for you guys. Of those small businesses in your community, were there any particular standouts of the types of small businesses, whether it's like an entire kind of industry in your area or just a kind of smattering of particular small businesses that you feel like kind of really have been using or selling SmartBiz to and really taking advantage of it?
I feel like, and Nikki can jump in on this one, I feel like it's honestly been much more spread out than what I expected. I thought we would get a lot of retail, a lot of that piece, but honestly, whether it's been insurance companies, just, all over the board, it's just really been a good mix of our customer base that has seen the value and taken the product. And our sales team, to their credit, they're bringing this up on every business they meet with, so we've really seen, great results from that front, but they've fully bought in and they're excited about it, and that makes all the difference in the world. And so they've done a really good job of selling it all across, I'd say, the different market segments.
Yeah. Yeah, actually kind of speaking of selling, I think that after you guys decided to sell SmartBiz, trying to figure out what those next steps are, getting everybody aligned. I think that one of the huge aspects is making sure that your salespeople in particular, they're confident with it, they're comfortable with it, they understand that they can talk to that value. So I'd love to talk a little bit more and dive deeper into the kind of building that team confidence when you're introducing a new solution. So like when you guys initially decided to launch SmartBiz, how did you guys bring that into the team internally and present that, talk with them about it, get them, get them excited about it? And if you had any maybe initial hesitations around bringing a new solution?
I don't think our sales team really had any issues with it because I think it was a product that was needed. Not only did we do the launch with Calix, our sales team meets weekly. So I think that helped too, because if they thought of a question or we always discussed it, and then, which we will get into a little bit later, but when we decided that we were only going to have SmartBiz and we weren't going to provide like a business Wi-Fi option. It was only if you need Wi-Fi for a business, it is SmartBiz. And I think that simplified it, and everybody was on board because so many businesses needed us to provide Wi-Fi for them.
Were there any particular strategies you guys found was helpful in terms of getting that buy-in internally? Obviously, the sales team kind of seemed to understand and know about it, but they're not the only ones who are in the company. They're not running the whole ship. So anything else you guys kind of did strategy-wise or team building or anything like that to kind of get everybody kind of bought in and ready to go?
Well, utilizing the training from Calix, we started off, and I think initially one mistake I think we should have done even sooner. Like Nikki said, the sales team bought in initially, and went right with it. I think once we got past the, understanding the product, it always takes 2 to 3 months, for people to really get comfortable with the product and understanding that. We probably brought our techs in just a little bit late. They should have really been in the conversation from the beginning as well, because ultimately it's them that's out there, installing this system, so they can actually make or break, the sale. They can, and they were used to a simple product. Basically, when they just turned on the Wi-Fi, they could turn on the Wi-Fi and go. And for them, you have to watch that because it becomes maybe a little bit more complicated, because if they don't have a full understanding of the value of multiple networks, if they don't have the understanding, of the backup services and things like that, it's just more of a complicated install and maybe more questions. So really making sure that you include them from the beginning, make sure they get buy-in. It took us a couple months, to get buy-in there. But once they did, now they fully understand the value as well. So I think it's just bringing both parties to the table right off the bat and not trying to push it down anyone's throat type things.
Yeah. And you mentioned like some trainings, and obviously, they're using the Calix resources and things like that, which is great. Were there, would you mind diving a little bit deeper, I guess, into some of those trainings or like educational sessions? Like, what did you guys end up kind of putting on in terms of maybe who you brought together, the cadence of these things, maybe a little high level detail of what you guys were doing in those trainings?
Well, we had multiple calls, obviously, with Calix on, with, I'd say primarily starting off with mostly with the sales group and some of our, what I call our NOC, our internal tech guys. And we went through that for quite a while, and then kind of started getting all of our examples together, kind of all of our paperwork. I think we were making it too complicated from the beginning. I think we tried to understand every little facet of it. And then it just got, you know how it is, it's like with everything, it just gets easier as you start selling the first few. And then we just tried to simplify our messaging, simplify even from our customer care and sales teams as they were talking, just to, you know, not everybody has to take everything, or it might be the thing that, hey, we'll get this in here for your Wi-Fi right now, and they're in a hurry. Like Nikki said, these folks are busy running their businesses, so then her team follows back up within a couple of weeks and things like that. But just things that you learn as you go. But no, it was invaluable having the examples, having, you know, the forums and having different things, and getting us, you know, kind of started on that. And then I think ultimately though, then it takes a couple of product champions. We have our on Nikki's team, we have kind of a sales engineer that does a lot of phone systems and other things, and he has a pretty good technical background and helped the sales team. And then eventually he was kind of the bridge too with the tech guys, I feel like, with our techs installing in the field, because he was able to kind of get it across to them and say, hey, this is why this is valuable. And he really worked with them, and having multiple people go on installs. We started doing that where the sales team started going on installs fairly quickly. And I think that really benefited. So just all that training, I think, you know, really helped. And like I said, and time's always a part of it, right? It always takes 2 to 3 months to just get any new product line off the ground to the point you want it. But I think, like I said, getting your techs involved from the beginning, having them champion that, or finding a champion in that group really helps.
And I would like to add, I do think sending our sales engineer into the install, I think it also, because he was there like with the tech to help the tech. So if they had any questions, he kind of was like he said, our product champion. So he understood everything, and he could even help with the install. And that just made it go really smooth. And then having the sales team follow up afterwards to be like, how's it going? And you knew like the certain features that they were using, and then we would make sure to bring up the other features, because after you start using something and then it becomes more simplified, you're like, oh, that part does interest me, because then they're ready to take the rest of it in. So I think just kind of spoon feeding a little at a time, because if you tell them everything, it's a little overwhelming at the beginning.
Yeah. No, I think it makes a ton of sense. I think that when you kind of, if you hit people too much too fast, they can only absorb so much. They can only kind of wrap their head around something new like that so quickly. But I think, like, you know, as you're talking about the simplification aspect, I think that's such an important part of your guys' journey, and a really important part of just selling a brand new solution in general. It's not just externally that things need to be simplified and it's helpful there, but also internally as well. So, you know, after you guys like started selling and supporting SmartBiz, you got these teams on board, but then, you know, you guys were already offering business services. So how did you initially go to market with SmartBiz?
I think Nikki touched on it a little bit earlier. We tried to bring SmartBiz in as an additional layer over and above that simple little just Wi-Fi only plan that we had, and that was a mistake. Again, we decided, I think that was our best decision, was deciding fairly early on. It's like we have to simplify. We have to have one offer, and I was just worried about it from a price point standpoint, because we had maybe 100 or a couple hundred out there, you know, with this lower price point. We actually gave the sales team a little flexibility, that if it was a really small business, that if they wanted to drop the price point, they had a range that they could drop. And I'll say that I think from the beginning, we're up to almost 200 installed, and I think we have maybe 5 that are anything below the highest price point. I thought there'd be more resistance in the market, and there's just not. I mean, they really, if they need those services, they're willing to pay for it. So I think that was our biggest thing. Again, it was just not having multiple messages out there. I think it was not only confusing for our customers, it was a little bit confusing for our internal people and our techs and everything else. So that was the thing, that once we went to a single offer, single strategy, it really helped.
Yeah, did that that kind of conflict almost, I guess, did that kind of cause some issues shortly after launching, kind of having this friction of, well, you could do this, but then we also have this?
Yeah, I think it did with the techs, because like we would sell SmartBiz as a sales team, and then the tech would go out and he would basically just install business Wi-Fi. Because I think it was easier, he didn't have to explain it, it took less time. But now that there is only one option, it simplifies it for the techs. It's just a no-brainer now, and there isn't a way to, I guess that's what we're installing.
Yeah, I think it also speaks to the power of the default. I think it's a something that's kind of better understood psychologically in the past several years. But the power of the default is if it's the only option, it's the default option. It makes that understanding that choice just that much easier. And I think the simplification it really helps your team internally, but then also customers externally just hone in and be like, okay, no, this is the choice that we're going to go with.
And it's the better option too, because it does have all those features. So yeah, it's a simplified option, but it's the best option of all. So that's good for the customer.
A win-win in that way, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So then, I mean, ultimately, I would say like you'd have to say that using the simplicity is probably one of the best, single offer approach. Like doing that, like that's a pretty important part, I think, of not to beat a dead horse here too much, but I feel like honing that in and being like, okay, no, this really is the choice that we're going to offer, and that's it. We're all just going to go all in. Did that decision to do that, was there a bit of an impact on the teams? Obviously, a positive way. We understand. Was there any kind of a consternation or anything like that, or everybody just kind of like understand, like, oh no, this makes sense. We should just do this and went all in?
I think it made more sense. And then, of course, with our sales engineer being out there helping with the installs, having our sales team follow up, I just think getting everybody's head wrapped around this is what we're doing, it goes a lot smoother. And just making sure like you communicate with your team, it's huge.
And the sales team came back and kind of overcame that too. They said, yeah, we can sell this. After they were out there for a little while utilizing it, they didn't think they needed multiple offers either. And so that just helped put us at ease to say, hey, yeah, let's just make this easier, go with a single offer. And like I said, then their numbers have backed it up ever since.
Mm-hmm. And did you also, like, how did that kind of affect the way that you guys were talking about SmartBiz, and how could that affect, like, if you're communicating to different businesses, like you talked about, you guys are offering it to a wide variety of businesses, maybe wider than you kind of expected initially. How did you guys sort of tailor your communications to speak to these wider variety of businesses?
Well, I think we would go in and say it's a coffee shop or a restaurant, we would definitely talk about their point of sale being, its own little network. Just like, I guess, realizing what the business is and talking about the features that benefited that business. So, and again, just telling them a couple of the features, they don't have to know everything it does. We can educate them on that later.
Did you have to adjust like your marketing materials or anything like that to kind of be more specific? Like, here's an industry, here's a vertical, and we're kind of speaking to them specifically with these different marketing assets?
Honestly, we provide them with all of the different features, but I think we would highlight the ones that fit specifically for that business that we're talking to. So if they are one of those people that they want to read and learn all about it, here it is. You can read about it yourself. But if you're one of those people that really just wants to get back to your bread and butter and run your business, we're going to tell you why you need it and the features that really would benefit what you do, and then we can educate you later on the rest.
Yeah, I think we've cut back in our marketing materials too on how much information we try. We want to be a good community partner and trying to inform them of everything, but that's just too much. I mean, so we really just, even in our marketing, simplified the initial messaging to kind of highlight those very major topics. And then, like as Nikki said, then in the sales process, they kind of hone in on what they're interested in, and we follow that through. So I think that really helped us a lot. And even initially when we had multiple offers, I mean, the sales team had to talk about, well, we have this or we have that. A lot of people don't know the difference. I mean, a lot of customers don't, they don't understand all those differences. And I think we were over educating potentially for a while. So
yeah, it's interesting. So you were also like more so, not as much like creating the dedicated assets for that, but more so like in the moment, in the pitch, making sure the team, because the team was so confident and they understood it, they're like, okay, well, I know that I should be speaking to this, even though we're still providing them maybe all the information to a certain degree, but really honing in on the ones that matter to them. All right, well, we have a second interactive poll here. A little pop-up should show up with you shortly. If you wouldn't mind, we're kind of curious if you're already thinking about launching a new small business solution. If you are kind of considering it maybe like the next 6 months, the next 12, 24, or maybe you're still kind of on the fence debating what you want to be doing. Interesting. So far, some people still kind of doing a lot of considering. I think this is really interesting. A handful of people looking to do in the next year or so. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for participating in that poll. Some very interesting information there. So kind of moving on from the simplification, well, I guess I'm moving on, but I think it kind of helps reinforce it, is you've simplified that messaging, you simplified the what you're offering. So now that everyone's kind of going all in, you know, even like Darren, you were saying earlier, how even just getting a new solution off the ground takes a few months just to really kind of get everybody going. I feel like it's also kind of the same with customers too. And so it's like, how are you educating them? How are you engaging with them? And then ultimately, like, you know, what are you doing or providing that's helping to empower them? So then, were there any particular marketing materials or strategies that you guys have been leveraging that you feel like has resonated the most with these customers?
You want to take that one, Nikki?
Well, I feel like after we sell a customer SmartBiz, we start sending them periodically emails about SmartBiz. And so we might highlight this feature and the benefits of it. And then we just kind of feed it to them over the course of like 6 months. So we do continue to educate them on what they've purchased, and so they can maybe utilize all of the benefits.
And giving them the tools, you know, I know Nikki touched on this a little bit earlier, but like the fact that they have a few different tools at their disposal, again, we're just back at split networks, whatever it may be. But then the fact that our team, that we can give them, you know, better visibility, better help them understand what's going on their network. I know it makes it much better for us to manage it as well if there are any issues that ever pop up with their networks too. So I just think, again, it's back to a peace of mind, right? It's back to knowing that we're a good partner for them. They trust, you know, the solution, and then like Nikki said, then it becomes a sticky customer for us, because the small business market is tough competition wise. There's a lot of aggressive offers out there and different things, and it's just another way that, you know, we can basically build that relationship with the customer and maintain it for long term.
Mm-hmm. Were there any unexpected or kind of difficulty or challenges in kind of like how you guys were positioning SmartBiz you feel like you had to overcome in your market with your customers?
I think the most difficult thing was, you know, it kind of came over time, but I think early on it was the buy-in. It was everybody understanding that, hey, yeah, at first it was kind of like, man, this seems complicated. This, you know, there's, you know, setting this up and all these different things. And like I said, I think once we got past that, then that's when it just took off. Like I said, and I say that kind of correlates to about a 3-month time frame. It felt like, as we kind of started rolling it out, and from there you can just see it, you know, the success take off. I mean, and just the, you know, you've got the numbers, the financial piece, and all that, but you also have just the discussions with internal discussions at the different, you know, sales meetings, tech meetings, things like that, that you can just tell people are much more bought in. They see the value and those sorts of things. So I think that's really the main thing. I think it's just that I know of was just kind of, again, that initial buy-in was the only, and again, that's just getting familiar with the product. So.
And if we could do it again, I would have brought more of the techs in, I think, on the initial meetings with Calix, because I think it would have helped more if we could have got some of the techs really bought into the product, and then they could talk to the rest of their team. Our sales engineer helped immensely, but I feel like if the techs could have sat through some of those meetings, I do think it would have helped. And so I would recommend more buy-in. Make sure you include your techs when you're, you know, because the sales team's easy because they are talking to the customers. We just sell it. We don't have to install it. So I think getting the techs on the same page is hugely important.
And then you guys have your sales team, your techs, do you guys have them do any kind of particular collaboration strategies that, post install, once the customers they're up and running with SmartBiz? Are these teams kind of working together then to help kind of come back, reinforce that messaging, and what if they are, like, what does that look like? What kind of resources maybe are they providing, or strategies that they're using to help these customers kind of post install better understand how could they be using SmartBiz?
I feel like probably not so much our techs because they're all installing other businesses, but I do feel like the sales team reaching out, making sure everything is working properly, asking if they have any questions, stopping by and seeing them, and mentioning the other features of the product that maybe they're not fully bought in on, or the customer's not bought in on yet. I think that's huge, and that can alleviate problems down the line because you engaged with that customer, and in that way we don't have any unforeseen issues that we didn't know about, which I think that customer service speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of customer service, do you also have like your support team as kind of part of this whenever customers are calling in around either prospective customers or current customers of SmartBiz?
Yeah, the customer service team, they'll take calls, and then so will the knock, but I feel like typically businesses go to sales, but then if it is like a tech issue, the knock's going to help us out, and they've been in the loop from the beginning as well.
Darren, were you gonna say something there as well?
No, I think Nikki hit it there. Our knock team, like I said, then they kind of have the tools to support these. And like I said, our sales engineer came out of the knock originally, and so they all have a pretty tight relationship. So he keeps them informed. We kind of have a couple of folks in the knock that are somewhat taking the leadership in this area as well, and can really help businesses and things like that with any questions, especially in those first, like Nick said, it's that kind of that first month as they're kind of getting used to the new system, or if they're incorporating new features, that they've done a really good job of helping with that as well. So.
Are there any particular best practices you guys have kind of established now in terms of whether it's the technical team, the sales team, the support team, any kind of notable best practices you guys feel like you've developed since launching SmartBiz and with your customers?
To me, I think that's the biggest one is the after the initial install, because sometimes, I don't know how many times I've heard them say, hey, we met with the owner, but then they got pulled away during the install, and all these different things are going on. Like I said, they're in constant motion. So I think that follow-up after the sale and after the install has really been the key business practice, I think, that we've taken away, because it just seems like we get fewer questions that way, and I feel like the satisfaction is much better overall. So I think that's probably the best thing we've incorporated, because that wasn't necessarily the case early on. And we put that in place fairly quickly, and that's really helped. So.
Yeah. And I will add that I think another best practice is every business that we talk to, we are, I don't know if I want to say pitching SmartBiz, but we are talking about our business router, SmartBiz, and it is something that we're including in the sale. And then the customer gets to choose if they want it or not. But I think that's just as big as anything. It's just making sure that you're talking about it to every customer.
Yeah, makes total sense. So looking ahead now, are there any kind of new initiatives or tools that you guys are thinking about implementing, that new best practices, new initiatives, to just kind of further enhance that customer education, making sure that they're educated, they're engaged, and they're empowered to be using SmartBiz as best as they can?
I think for us, and I know Michael's touched on it at Connections and different things, but we've never been an MSP and so this has kind of been that first, almost like that first step into that type of a business and being more of a full-time business partner. So I think this has kind of got us thinking down the road as we get into more, medium-sized businesses, more tools, to take this even further, because, like I said, with our businesses, just so many of them, and Nikki's going to touch on this, I know, potentially a little bit more. We've been really active with phone systems in our area, because there's just not many phone providers that really give the level of service and things that a lot of folks want, because that's another area that's somewhat difficult for small business, to get the right type of systems and understanding all the nuances and things with those. So this has really been a good match between SmartBiz and our phone system sales, that we're doing already. So again, it's just trying to get those multiple ties. You're solving a business need for that customer that they very much need, but you're also, creating what I think is a much longer term, longer life customer as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think it's again a call back to the power of the platform. I think that when you've got that kind of visibility, insight, and ability to actually make changes and help these customers from a remote standpoint, your teams can be helping these small businesses almost as if it was like a proper MSP, but at a business scale that is much smaller than what would typically be able to take advantage of an MSP. I think it's a really exciting business opportunity then for you guys.
Yeah, a lot of these businesses are just too small to have, to hire an MSP, but yet they need some of those same services. So this really fills that void. So.
That's really cool. So, kind of taking us home here to where we are today, in terms of finding success with SmartBiz, because it's been a bit of a journey with you guys all. I think a lot of great learnings, a lot of great tests and things you kind of learned along the way and shared here. How do you feel ultimately that SmartBiz is giving you like a competitive advantage in your market compared to the other solutions that you might have been considering?
Well, I feel it's because, it isn't just a router. It does so much more, and that's going to make our product very sticky. They're not going to want to, go away from United Fiber because we're covering a lot of bases for them, and I think that's huge. And like Darren was talking about with our phone systems, at United Fiber, like our number one thing is customer service. So a lot of these customers, basically they have an old phone system that they don't even know how to use all of the things that it offers because whoever sold it to them is long gone. So now we can go in, we can provide them with an affordable phone system, and our customer service is amazing. So when they need to know how to use it, we're a phone call away, and they know that because we will help them. We will help them change their automated message, so they can maybe talk about their monthly special when their customer's on hold. You know what I mean? Like, so we talk about all the features of our phone systems. And what Darren was saying is 85% of our phone customers took SmartBiz, which that's huge. And it makes for a very easy deployment of the phone system.
Yeah, and obviously the customer care, the customer service side is number one, and then on the financial side, we're running some numbers on our true small business market. Like I said, this is not our enterprise customers by any means, but small business revenue is a little bit under $120 on average. Again, we're in competitive markets, and it's always, there's usually lower bowl offers out there in the markets, but you look at offering a product like this at a $30 price point, and you've increased your ARPU by sometimes 25% on average. So what it does for us financially, what it does as far as creating a more sticky customer and solving that business need, we just think it's a great fit for the things we're trying to do. So.
Yeah, that's a tremendous lift, I would say. That's being able to bring in a new solution like this. It's helping it's actively helping these businesses. It's not just, again, you're not just providing basic internet or basic phone stuff. There's real value that's being provided, and it's great to see that you guys are also then able to capture that value and provide a pretty tremendous lift, I would say, just by offering and going from A to B.
Right. Yeah, it's a huge lift.
Are there any other metrics or indicators you guys are using to measure success or positive momentum?
We continue to do, just analyzing our, customer counts and things like that. Like I said, just seeing what the customer sales, like what our sales team has done with this since the first of the year has just been, really amazing to me because, I would say on average, we're getting close to half of our new businesses, and obviously not all those are all small businesses are taking this product. So I think that's been a huge testament. Like I said, I think it's brought a whole new aspect to kind of our business sales. It gives another reason for that customer to look at us. If they didn't have enough reasons already, then that's just one more thing, another problem we can solve for them. So, to me, that's been the benefit since we've really started, making this available.
Yeah, that's awesome. As you guys have been, rolling it out there, you're approaching a few hundred customers here. As you're getting that feedback from your customers, have you guys made any kind of changes or updates to, whether it's operationally, marketing wise, sales pitch wise, any kind of change you guys have made as a result of that customer feedback coming in now?
Well, one thing with SmartBiz, I thought the biggest thing would be how it would roll, like if there was an outage, it would roll over to the app and they could run their business on their cell phone. And it's actually that the POS, like that feature is huge. And so it's just funny when we poll like our salespeople, that's the one hot button, I guess, that the customers are very interested in. So it's just, yeah, it's interesting, the things that you think would be the reason that they took it. And then you hear from sales, actually, this is the primary one.
Yeah, I think, and back to your other screen, simplify and listen to the customer. Just let them direct, what they want. Like I said, and then, we did, instead of trying to throw all the advantages to them, mold the message to what they want. So.
That's awesome. Do you guys also like kind of bring in, team success and celebrating that and using that as a way to also help kind of further drive more momentum with SmartBiz internally, which then obviously feeds into external momentum?
Yeah, starting off, we did a little sales contest for those first few months, and the sales team had a lot of fun with that. So they're a competitive bunch by nature, so that always makes it fun. Just something else over and above their normal, commissions and compensation. But we did that, and then the other thing we do is we reported a lot. We try to send out at least once or twice a month a report out to our whole United Fiber group, and talking about how valuable, like giving them the results of what's happened month to month, how about, because the techs don't always see the end result, or like, no, hey, where do we stand with this or stand with that. So we talk a lot about SmartBiz now, and about the success that we're having getting it in the field, kind of what it's doing for us financially, and just how much better it's improving that customer experience. So I think that's the thing, is just to continue to reinforce it, and provide results, and just keep it front burner. So.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. And I know we already obviously talked a little bit about this kind of MSP light, you might say. Any other items on the horizon you feel like are kind of coming down the road with United Fiber and SmartBiz?
I guess I'll touch on that one. I mean, we're waiting to see kind of what this, we've talked a little bit, it's been brought up at some of the meetings on the kind of the next step in that, some of the different services rolling out for larger businesses and things like that. Obviously something we'll continue to be interested in. And even though it doesn't really fall in exactly, we see a lot of correlation with the Smart MDU product. That's something that we're really wanting to get rolling, and because we have a lot of apartment business and things like that. So that's something we're excited about getting. We see it providing a lot of the same type of benefits. Again, it's all ultimately, it's back to that same thing that we heard from Carl at Connections, 12 years ago. It's owning the customer experience, and that's really, it doesn't matter if you're talking residential, commercial, apartment, whatever it is. These are the tools we need to truly kind of, own that customer experience, and that's ultimately what we want to do.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to hear that. I think it's another great example of the power of the platform. It's the simplicity. There's so many elements here that I think all really kind of tie together to share this story. And obviously we're using SmartBiz as the conduit for that story, but I think it's what you just were talking about. It's a great example of, well, once you kind of start here, whether it's smart home or SmartBiz, like then there's so many other opportunities because of the ability to be launching new services, and with all like the different learnings you guys have had also, I feel like that's going to pay off in dividends. If you've already launched a whole new service, well, you've been working out that muscle for a little while now, and it's going to be pretty recent, and then you get to apply all those same learnings and already have that like pre-exercised muscle for your next opportunity with another managed solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exciting. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time talking here. We do have one last poll for our audience here before we move into a little Q&A. Very simple poll, just kind of curious if you would be interested in discussing more about SmartBiz with any of our experts. Obviously, we'd love to be chatting with you if particularly those who are maybe still on the fence as to whether they'd be they're considering offering a small business solution. Hopefully today showed a great example of that, of what you could be doing with your small business community. I'd love to be chatting with you. All right, and while that poll is still going on, we'll just go ahead and take a look at the Q&A here. All right, got a question here. Wondering, how do you all navigate the conversations with these businesses that are not willing or able to pay for those additional costs, and how have you been able to overcome those objections?
Well, I think we provide our salespeople with the freedom to offer a little bit of a discount if they're truly a tiny business and they can't afford it. But most of them, when you talk about the benefits, they can't really afford not to. And the fact that the router or having our router gives them the opportunity to, if they have an issue, to call in and we can probably fix it on that call. Like, so one call resolution versus a truck roll. And that's huge to a business that they're not going to have to be down very long. And the fact that if there was an outage, they're not dead in the water. And I think that's huge to most businesses because they can't function without internet. It's just like electricity, you can't function without it.
Totally, yeah. Let's see, we have another question here. What was one of the biggest lessons you kind of took away or learned after launching SmartBiz?
I think for me, this kind of ties both questions together. Businesses are willing to pay for this. I thought, I didn't know if that would be the case. Again, like Nikki said, our sales team has the flexibility, to make actually a pretty substantial discount if they need to for a very small business, but that's not been the case. Literally, we've had just a handful. Less than 5% have even had to reduce the price for anyone. So it's like you said, I think it brings enough value that I'll be honest, that was my hesitation because I was afraid that wouldn't be the case. But it's been it's surprised me. I would say there's believe in the value of the product because we've really seen it.
And I did want to mention to the people who are on the call today that in our highest tier package, it is included. Just like in our residential package, if you take the gig, you get our router. So in our business offerings, if you take the gig there, the router is included.
That's great. Let's see, got one. Let's see, another one just came in. Let's try this one. Do you use a third-party support team for your after-hours support? And if so, how do you integrate them into the support of SmartBiz?
We do, but we keep our phones basically until 8 o'clock in the evening. And so most of the time for the business customers, that's usually, catches most of the folks that would be on this type of a product. But we do have techs on call 24 hours so that if there's any calls that they can't handle, then they direct those directly to our NOC on call. And so those type of issues would be handled, say for a bar or something like that, that maybe their point of sale system's on there, they can still get help no matter what time. So
That's great. And then, all right, let's go with the last question here. Any other kind of remaining advice you would give for building your team's confidence as you're launching this new solution and getting everybody, aligned and understand what's going on?
I would give two things. One, simplify, don't have to complicate it. And two, I would think, make sure your techs have buy-in from the beginning or it's going to be a hard road.
and the other thing I would extend too, that, just like many other companies in this business are always the same way. We're always open if somebody's looking at this and would like to talk to our teams. We're always more than open, or come on site, whatever. We'd be happy to share any information we've learned as many others are willing to do the same.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you guys have already done or shared so much today. I think it's been really valuable. Thank you guys so much for your time, and thank you everybody else who joined us for watching today. Appreciate the questions as well. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and hopefully we'll be talking to you soon.
Great. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Take care.